Look Through the Chaos podcast, the co-host of which is none other than John Campbell, who joins me now. The Look Through the Chaos podcast taking off like a rocket. I don't know why the sound quality that you've got is terrible. Have you improved your microphone yet, Congressman?
Not yet, but I will have it improved by Monday. My technology I have is rather old. I think this computer is 2015 or 2014, and these things I have in my ears to speak to you on predate that, probably by 10 years or so. So
you might want to do an upgrade, just a little upgrade.
I might. I just hate spending money with these leftist technology companies. I like their products. I just hate the companies. But I have a bone to pick with you right now.
Me?
You know,
No.
You were on Bret Baier Friday night, were you not?
I was.
Yes. And the Captain, Mrs. Campbell, and I sat down. It was recorded, and we sat down at our dinner table and watched it. And when you got to the winners and losers of the week, you picked winners as podcasters. And we looked at each other and we said, oh, this is going to be great. He will bring up Look Through the Chaos podcast. But as we listened, we heard...
Imagine the bump we're going to get from that.
Yeah, we thought it'd be great. So we listened, and I was waiting for Look Through the Chaos, but instead I heard...
What you heard was Call Me Back, commentary, and Getting Hammered, because they covered the Israeli massacre. You guys are more domestic politics. I didn't name you, but I did name those three. So, that is, I'm not gonna forward promote what you got to succeed first.
We went from 0 to thousands in 10 days. Okay. And so we are succeeding. And you did not say that the winners of the week are podcasters who discuss Israel or exclusively Israel. You just said
yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
I think you.
No, let's go back. Okay, this is like a
Simone?
Geico commercial. Let's go to the tape. Let's play cut number 4, please. Cut number 4.
Okay, winners and losers. Hugh first.
My winners are a group of podcasts, Brett, that have grown exponentially in popularity. They are the Commentary podcast, in which our friend Matt is a frequent participant. Dan Senor's Call Me Back, and then Getting Hammered with Mary Catherine Ham and Dick Madison. The reason that they are soaring is that they go deep, and they are funny, and they are still focused, even as the rest of the media moves on from the war in Israel. Too often, they're too quick to go away from Gaza. These three podcasts in particular are focused on...
Thank you. So, John Campbell, do you want to apologize now for your disinformation? You're part of the fake media.
No, because when you go from 1 to thousands, that is also exponential. So maybe it's not the same numbers that they have yet, but we'll get there. But
we'll start talking about Israel, and I'll put you in my winner of the week. Let me ask you about something more important,
we'll
though.
Talk about it.
There's a story today about interest rates, and Lawrence Summer said, and this got repeated in a new NBER paper and a couple of economists. We argue that the unprecedented increase in borrowing costs is crucial to explaining the low consumer sentiment of the last 2 years. When President Biden said consumer confidence is soaring, I said, wait a minute. He said that in the State of the Union. I went and looked. It had plummeted in February. I knew it wasn't true, but I didn't realize that they didn't even include the cost of borrowing in the consumer product inflation. Did you know that?
Yeah, I actually I tweeted out about this last week at some point, that what we have right now, consumer spending is still high. It's still going well. That's the good news that Biden's talking about, et cetera, et cetera. Consumers are still spending money. They're doing that in part because they still have, some of them do, not all of them, but a lot of the money from the pandemic that was handed out, the so-called helicopter money that was handed out. Some of that is still out there. There's still some revenge travel going on. There's all that sort of consumer spending. But on the other side of it, consumer confidence is at recessionary levels. I was actually at a conference here in Phoenix last week that Liz Ann Saunders, the chief economist for Charles Schwab, was at. And she said in this conference that the dichotomy between consumer spending and consumer confidence has never been this wide. consumer confidence has never been this low without a recession. But you don't have a recession with consumer spending. So what's going on? So her explanation was it's inflation. It's just what you were talking about before the break. It's that people are spending right now, but they're realizing they're running out and that they're going to run out and that they go into the market and $100 trip to the market is nothing these days. I was talking to my son actually this last week who lives in California where everything is more expensive for reasons we will actually explain on our podcast tomorrow. But he said his wife, and he has 3 kids. So he said his wife goes to Costco, okay? And he says he comes back and he says, you spent $500. What did you buy? And it's all just food. It's all just stuff. There's nothing, it's just life necessities. It's nothing. And so that's what is getting to people. And that's why, although right now, they're still spending. And part of that spending is inflation alone. Did you know that since Biden was sworn in 2020, the CPI is now up 19%. So that means when you consider that most of the things you buy are not tax deductible, and as you make more money, you pay taxes on it at a higher rate, that if you're not making 25% more today than you were in 2020, you've gone backwards in terms of how much spending power you have. Now, I know Generalissimo is probably making way more than 25% more than he was in 2020, but most people are not. And so
let me give you a real world example, John. The fetching Mrs. Hewitt did not come east with me, so I had to go to the Safeway by myself, which is always an adventure.
That had to be horrible.
It takes me forever. I can't find anything, so I bought a half gallon of low-fat milk.
Were you able to find the carts?
No, I had a hand cart. I bought a half gallon of milk, 2 sleeves of bagels, 2 packages of oatmeal raisin cookies, and 2 frozen pizzas. That's basically a week's supply for me, right? $60. I just I fell backwards. $60 for milk, 2 sleeves of bagel, 2 small packages of oatmeal raisin cookies, and 2 frozen pizzas. $60. What do your children do? I mean, I don't know. My daughter's got 4 kids, and they're all eaters. I have no idea what their food bill is.
Yeah, well, this is the cross currents that are going on in the economy right now. That a lot of the quote unquote headline numbers, unemployment's still below 4%. Gross domestic product is still growing. People are still spending money. People in general still have cash. So you have all that good news going on out there. But then there's a lot of bad news on the other side, which is this inflation, the fact that people's incomes are more and more being eaten up by inflation, and that unemployment is actually ticking up. And some of the numbers underneath the headlines are not so good. You know, if you were making $140,000 a year as a tech person and you get laid off and you get a job at Uber, that in the unemployment number, that doesn't change. You still have a job. But obviously the income that you have has changed dramatically. And so there's some things like that going on underneath the covers, if you will, of the economy right now that are somewhat worrying. And this is going to be a problem for the Fed. I heard you talking to J.D. Vance and so forth before the break about interest rates and so forth. If the economy is starting to weaken, which it is, but inflation is still stubbornly high and actually perhaps growing, which it is, that means we're headed towards, if you extrapolate those lines out there, we're headed towards stagflation, which is a weaker economy with inflation still stubbornly high. What does the Fed do in that case? If they lower interest rates to try and help the economy, they'll stoke inflation some more. If they keep interest rates up or raise them to try and keep the inflation down, they can push the economy lower. This is a place they don't want to be because it's a Hobson's choice, but it looks like where they're heading. And if you are one of the many Biden appointees on the Fed right now, who really more than anything else care about Biden being reelected so you can have woke policies in schools and put Roe versus Wade back as the law of the land and do all the leftist things that the leftists want to do, put in neo-Marxist policies everywhere, then all you really care about is having the Fed do whatever it can do to help Joe Biden get reelected. But
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
they
sure
can't
know
cut
what that
rates.
is right
I mean,
now.
they can't cut rates. That'll drive everything up. Now, I got to ask you about one thing. You're a former car dealer. The cost of a car has gone through the roof, and the cost of financing. What, as a car dealer, did you think was fair to charge vis-a-vis the 10-year Treasury? You didn't charge the 10-year Treasury when people borrowed money. You lose money that way. But what did you charge over the 10-year Treasury for a car?
It's not up to the dealer. The dealer places financing, but the dealer doesn't, hardly ever does the dealer hold the financing anymore. There was a time dealers used to do that. That's not the case anymore. Now you place it, you sell it to Ford Motor Credit or GMAC, or you sell it to a local bank, or you sell it to Ally Financial, which is a big car finance outfit, national finance company that is out there. So you do that with it. And so it's not up to the dealer. It's up to what those people charge. And what they charge is dependent on the credit rating, the FICO score of the customer. Now, the dealer gets a markup. That's why the dealer does this. The dealer doesn't do it for free. The dealer gets a markup, usually, not always, but usually on these finances. Now, the dealer's markup may shrink now because their primary goal is sell a car. We always said in the car business, nothing happens till you sell a car. You can't fix it, service it, take it back in used, do anything with it till you sell a car. So they may have to take some lower margins there to sell the cars, and that's what I think you're going to see happening. You're already seeing it happen in the car business now as things get expensive for consumers, and as the cash runs out, you got to cut margins to do what you.
Well, if there is no inventory, and there is an inventory in housing, and cars are getting more expensive, I don't know how we avoid the recession. And I don't think we want to avoid the recession because it's the only way to reset the economy. Last word to you.
You're right. Recessions are things that clean out the deadwood. They're like, the winter that allows new growth to come in the spring. You got to clear out the deadwood. So.